ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Mr. Alan Goodman. It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
I know you've been busting it out. He's also sharpens knives and tools guy. So here at the show, you can bring your tools and your knives. He's the man sharpening. And again, it's great to see you again. And we just wanted to talk to Alan and get some history from where it originally originated and how it come about, the show and whatnot. If you don't mind,
Yeah, the
kind of give us some
Carv-In
backstory.
here. So I guess one of the, and I don't even know how long ago it's been, but it started out under a pole shed, Jesse Lee campground with John Cuba. And, that's where it started, and it's got progressively better every year. As you folks can see when you're looking out. It's definitely not a pole shed anymore.
Yeah, it's funny how small things turn into big things, like an oak tree, I guess.
Absolutely.
From a small acre to a big oak tree. So, but we wanted to go over some stuff for all you beginners out there that want to know how to hold a knife properly without damaging your other hands or your thumb and fingers. Alan's going to show you some simple but very effective techniques and simple cuts, how you go about doing this.
Yeah, one of the things, was just talking about the glove.
Yes.
And the absence of one. I've been doing this for over 35 years. I should be wearing a glove, disclaimer. So any of the safety police that wants to get on to us, but you should wear a glove. But after you do it so long, you just get used to doing it. If you learn to use your tools correctly and safely, you can use that glove as a crutch too. I've seen folks that you start depending on it. You start depending on, if you're on a desert island, you don't have a glove, and you got a knife. Right? So, I tell folks to learn how to whittle. Okay? And that's how I got started. I was watching my papa, my uncles, sitting around bib overalls. They'd all have a piece of cedar, and they'd just make shavers. So one of the things that I tell folks to do is just learn to whittle. There's nothing more relaxing than sitting on your porch or whatever. Just
Yes, absolutely.
Learn to control those cuts. You don't have to get in there and try to hog it all off. Learn to use some finesse. So this is a 6-inch handle that I'm using here. One of yours?
Yes.
One of mine and yours.
Yes.
So that's very cool. But I'll use this knife in various grips. I will, as you see, I will put the thumb on the back of the handle sometimes. And sometimes I will actually use my thumb on the back of the blade.
Very controllable.
Yeah. I like to use a pencil style grip too. Okay. So a lot of this is very useful for doing like a chip cut. You can come in there like so and get those cuts. But I'm going to show everybody kind of the 3 practice cuts that I use. I just quit carving for a while, quit making knives. I just had to stop for a little while. But what kept me proficient was when I go sharpen my pocket knife or something like that. For every knife that I sharpen, I go through a little series of tests. And the thing that I'll do is when I sharpen that knife, I will come cross grain and just slice. And I'm looking for little things like scratches that may be left behind that may tell me I need to come back to my strop and strop it. But you can make cuts like this all day and it'll feel fairly sharp. But when you get on this end grain and you're left with just a nice polished cut, that's what I'm after. The other little test that I perform on every single knife that I do is a chip cut, and I'm testing the very tip of that knife. Do I have a good point on it? Is it strong enough? Is it stout enough? Because sometimes you can grind them a little thin, or I can get them a little thin. But I go through a couple of these cuts on every single knife that I make. I make a stop cut and a relief cut, and I try to get this to a lot of beginners. I haven't ever carved before. I'll show them the chip cut, and I tell them to do a whole corner of these. And then go to this corner. By the time you get to that 4th corner, you'll see some results. You may start out looking, every little cut you make, critique it. Just get in there and say, okay, I didn't line up really good. So learn to go back in there and make these cuts through doing a lot of teaching, folks will do a carving and they'll say, you know, can you fix this? And I just go back in there and make these little cuts, and they're like, wow, that's a night and day difference. But all I'm doing is the same thing that I do to my own carvings. I just fixed that little chip cut that I messed up. So the other little cut that I like to show folks is just a stop cut and a relief cut. And I like to make this into like a little S curve or something like that. I'll make that little S curve, and I'll get back in here and get to where you can just pop that out, and you're left with this nice shadow. So then I'll think, okay, let me get back here on this side. Maybe you don't have a V tool. There it is. So kind of a chip style cut, you know. But this is good practice. If you'll do repetitive cuts, make these over and over and over, I'll guarantee you by the time you get to the fourth corner that you're going to see an improvement. The more you do something, you're just going to get better. So perform these little stop cuts and relief cuts, you know, just a straight cut. Learn to put those thumbs together. The good Lord give us thumbs for a reason. Just put them together, utilize them for safety, right? So you can do this all day long, and you're still learning carving. If you can't make these cuts right here, you're not going to be able to make them when you rough out or your actual cut out. So learn to make them here on your little practice piece at lunch break. I used to do this over and over and over at lunch break, you know. And I would think, okay, I messed the eyes up last night, so I would practice eyes on a chip cut. You can do an eye, you know, just a chip cut, another little chip cut. So get your little cut there, and then come over here, make this one. So there's two chip cuts so far. Now we're going to do a stop cut and a relief cut. Just kind of put that blade in there. And you're learning your tools. Right. You're developing dexterity, you know. Sure, you couldn't do it the first day you try, whatever. But the more and more you do it, you're going to get better. You know, very, very rarely does somebody get worse the more they do something. So
practice makes perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to actually do it though to get better.
That's right. Yeah, and you're learning. You're not only learning to make these cuts. You're learning little nuances about your knife blade. You're learning that, hey, this particular knife does this cut really well, or I can get another tool and do it better. Right. So, you know, just learn to whittle. Learn to make these little shaving cuts, things like that. Stop cut, relief cut, and the chip cut. But yeah, that'll get you going. You know, I've heard people say, well, I don't know how to carve. You know how to whittle? Right. Just start right there. You know, just learn to whittle. Do the cuts. You should never cut towards yourself. We've all heard that. But hide your thumb. You know, instead of leaving it up here and cutting back towards it, move the thumb down and slice. Okay. But the one thing that I can really try to impress upon you, you know, is use your thumbs as much as you can for safety. And if we had a gouge, it would be the same way. I use my thumbs together. This way the gouge doesn't slip and then wind up to my non-carving hand or my leg or my belly or wherever I'm at. Yeah, you know, just learn to critique yourself. And you say, well, it's not a good clean cut. That's okay. Come back in there and make that cut clean. Learn to carve for yourself, you know.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Alan, I can't thank you enough, man. You are the man. Greatly appreciate it. One of my carving heroes right here, ladies and gentlemen. So good. Glad to see you again, and thanks for this video. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, man.
All right. Thanks, Alan.